Hello guys and welcome to the Sicilian Paramour. Today let's look at an opening which is considered pretty dubious by many, but there's also a cult around it. We're talking about the Blackmar-Diemer Gambit, which offers exciting play for white pieces, but there are many adherents on the black side who just basically think it's crap. So without further ado, let's get into this. After d4, d5, a couple of sensible moves. Now there are many things that white can play. He can go for c4, which is going into the main line, so the Queen's Gambit. Bishop f4, which is the rage nowadays, the London system. Knight f3, g3, e3, the Collet system, anything. So many possibilities here. But the move, of course, we're talking about is e4. The Blackmar-Diemer Gambit. White is sacrificing a pawn in order for quick development and to open lines. So after d4, which is the most principled reply, you gotta capture the pawn. You gotta accept the gambit if you want to refute it. And here comes knight c3. Now, although I must mention that there's another move here, which is f3. Let's look at a fun game from this line. So after f3, ef3, knight f3, kind of reminds me of the Mora Gambit. Bishop g4, bishop e3, knight c6, and probably knight c3 would be the best move here, but white actually decided to play c3. You can't blame the guy, he was just trying to have fun. This is actually the game Kunitz-Salomon 1907, played in 1907. After the move e5, d5, knight ce7, queen a4 check. Now you don't want some c6, dc6 business, so he just tried to go back with bishop d7, queen e4, centralizing the queen, not being afraid of knight c6, knight f6, because you're going to take the pawn on e5. f6, protecting the pawn, which might not actually be good. Bishop d3, alright. Knight g6, trying to bring the other knight here and try to complete development that way. But of course, with the king in such a crammed position, you might be able to find a move here that is kind of fitting conclusion to what's going to happen next. So pause the video and try to find a win for white. I hope you've paused, and this is the move, queen g6. It's beautiful, but at the same time very simple, because everything else after this is forced. H take g6, bishop g6 check, king e7, and bishop c5, mate being the only way to conclude the game here. So of course f3 is a fun variation, but the main line of course is knight c3. Many moves to be played here. You can choose to ignore and give back the pawn by playing moves like e6, c6, but of course there are many moves. Knight f6 is the most principled way to hang on to the pawn. But let's look at some of the other moves that have been played. e5 is actually a pretty interesting move. It's known as the Lemberger Gambit or the Lemberger Counter Gambit, something like that. Many moves that can be played here. Diemer himself, which is the guy after which the opening was named, Blackmar-Diemer Gambit. So Emil Diemer, he was a German master. He preferred the move bishop e3. Well, there are many ways you can play. You can play queen h5 also. This was actually favored by Mats Lang. But a sample game over here, which I have, is d takes e5. This is a completely ridiculous move. You're playing a gambit and you're ready to exchange queens. Sometimes it works, and like there's a line in the Mora Gambit when you can exchange queens early on and still have retained quite a lot of initiative, but not here. So after queen takes, queen, king takes, knight c6, I think d5, knight d5 was probably what white's intention was. He's trying to attack the c7 pawn, trying to fork, but of course he missed the bishop g4. Now objectively the best continuation here would be king e1, trying to forget about everything and just try to keep a safe and solid position. But he went for f3. And again, I think so he missed the second reply in a row, which is just castle. He doesn't have to move the bishop anyway, because if the bishop, the pawn takes bishop, and then your knight is also hanging with the check, of course. So c4, trying to shore up the knight. e3, gf3, bishop e6, trying to attack the knight again. And of course, instead of doing something sensible, white thought it's very much a necessity to protect this e5 pawn. So he basically played f4. I think bishop f4, if you really wanted to protect it, bishop f4 would have been a slightly better. Because f4 now just loses to a, not exactly stunning, but a blow. See if you can find this. It's black to move and basically win a piece. If you pause, it's kind of stunning, but simple at the same time. Rook takes d5. And after cd5, which is obvious, bishop d5, and the rook is gone. Well, it actually kind of reminds me of this variation in the Queen's Gambit Accepted, where after the moves d4, d5, c4, dc4, e3, you're trying to regain the pawn with the bishop, and black goes greedy and just goes b5. And after a4, a6 can't really be played because of takes and rook takes. So because you have to play c6. But after just pawn recaptures and queen f3 is the same thing. And there's nothing to protect the rook up on this diagonal, and it's basically lost. So that's a sad move, right? And that's why. But of course there are many possible alternatives that white could have had after e5. There's also another this move, b6. It's not that hot of a move because you're not really trying to, retain the pawn. You're just giving it up. One sensible variation could be knight e4, bishop b7, bishop b5 check, knight d7, queen e2, e6, knight f3, with a solid position for white, with many attacking chances. But one of the games I have here is f3, trying to be forcefully, just okay, take the pawn, I want to gambit it. And black doesn't take it still. So after fe4, we just have a good center for nothing. So after knight f6, bishop d3, now the queen is attacking the pawn. But of course you can't take it, and attentive viewers would understand why. So after e6, bishop g5, h6 would be the best move. Suddenly black decides to take the pawn for completely no reason, and of course after the obvious move, bishop b5 check, the queen is dead. This game is actually Gilbert Fairman 2006. So people are doing this in 2006. People were doing this in 2006. Probably they still are. Let's check out another variation, bishop f5. It has been played quite a few times, and after f3, taking the pawn, queen f3, you're attacking the bishop and you're attacking the pawn on b7. Now basically e6 and queen c8 are two moves which are actually played. e6, the point being after queen b7, knight d7, I suppose, and queen c8 is basically protecting the bishop and protecting the pawn. But before going on to bishop c8, which looks an anti-developing moves and just gives white 3 pieces developed for nothing, let's look at bishop d7. It's actually a common idea, trying to, after the queen takes, trying to play bishop c6. However, at this point I should mention that, as the arrow indicates, knight c6 might be the best move. But after bishop b5 and bishop c6 and bishop b5, this position is pretty sad for black. Of course, bishop takes, there is knight takes. So after queen d7, trying to hold everything together, it doesn't work, because after bishop takes, queen has to take, otherwise the rook goes. And after queen c8, it's basically mate. Well, it's a similar kind of mate is there's many openings. I think so. It's known as what, the England Gambit mate, or England Gambit trap, something like that. But anyways, let's check out a beautiful game played by Diemer in 1949, which had the move bishop c8. Basically just an anti-developing move, which you're trying to say, hey, okay, I'm a pawn up, try to demonstrate something for it. And Diemer surely does demonstrate something for it. After bishop c4, e6, knight g2, knight f6, bishop g5. I just love the way that, Diemer is just developing all his pieces in a very sensible manner. He's not trying to do anything flashy, not trying to force anything. He's a pawn down, but he knows he's up a lot of up in development, and he's just trying to develop methodically. He's not trying to force the issue like many people try to do after they gambit a pawn. They just try to either regain the pawn as quickly as possible or anything. He's just developing it as if nothing has happened. So after bishop e7, castling queen side, of course, opposite side castling. c6, king b1. Well, this was a move, prophylactic move, just trying to get the king away from further queen a5 harassments. And after knight b d7, bishop d3. Now, this is a good move. Diemer understands that this bishop is basically biting on granite here. It has no work. And after eventually black castling king side, the bishop on d3 would actually be a much better piece, and it would be aiming at the sensitive h7 square. Might be much better for the attack. Knight d5, rook f2 d1, simple, straightforward attacking play. Castle. And now just look at all the pieces that white has. I think in fact I can even color this rook. So you have so many pieces attacking and participating directly in the attack. Even these knights are very good. Not really sure about this one, but the knight on e2 is of course ready to go to f4 and do some damage. But at this point, of course, the bishop is hanging, so you have to do something. Of course you don't take the bishop, you play h4. A similar idea to the Alekhine attack in the French. So you're trying to open up the h file. So instead of taking the bishop, black takes the knight with check first, knight c3, e5. I don't really understand this move. Maybe it was trying to free the bishop, or maybe he thought that maybe after liquidating, say after pawn takes and the knight takes, after liquidating many more attacking forces, black will have a good chance of survival. But Diemer is not interested in this. Knight e4. I should mention that queen e3 and queen e2 were actually objectively better moves, but knight e4 is one of the standard plans, just trying to get the knight one more piece into the attack. After e takes d4, excuse me. After e takes d4, you're trying to, well, basically say, I'm 3 pawns up now, let's see what you got. And now white just starts playing one accurate and brilliant move after another. Knight d6 to start with. The bishop cannot take it, of course, because the queen is hanging. So after knight e5, which attacks our queen and also attacks our knight, there's something that you have to do. But of course, queen e4 is what you're gonna play now. We are just moving every other piece, lining up the bishop and queen battery here with a threat to the h7 pawn, which is basically going to be a mate. Alright, knight g6. Diemer played here, it actually completely destroyed black. Knight f7. I'm so sorry for revealing this. So knight f7, rook f7, rook f7. You have to do it. Forced king f7. Now the idea is bishop c4. And with so many pieces participating in the attack and the king is open, it cannot even slip back now. I don't think so. It can slip back. Why am I coloring this green? Yeah, color it red. Can't slip back. This file is soon going to be open for the rook. So this is not a happy camper. King f8 was played. King e8 might have been better, but who cares about this anymore? Rook f1 check, bishop f6, and now you don't even have to think much about it. Rook f6, of course, because after g f6, you wouldn't want to take with the queen, right? So after g f6, bishop f6, it's a mate. So beautiful game played by Diemer in 1949 here. This was the bishop c8 variation. But of course, instead of bishop f5, let's go and head on into knight f6 variation, which is the main line. So after f3, again there are many moves, like I've said. You can play g6, you can play c6, you can play this bishop f5. I think so. This is called the Vienna variation, something like that. But of course, acceptance of the gambit should be the most critical try. Although there is a lot to mention about this bishop f7 too. But either way, after e3, queen f3 and knight f3 are equally popular. Let's look at knight f3 first. Two variations here, bishop g4 and bishop f5. Let's look at bishop f5 here. But a bishop f5, bishop c4, e6, trying to develop in standard way, getting the bishop outside the pawn chain and then pushing e6. Castles, c6, trying to overprotect the d4, d7, d5 square. queen e2, queen c7. Now queen c7 might not be the most accurate. First you might want to play bishop d6 so that you can also control this e5 square so that there's no knight intrusion. But after queen c7, knight e5, white is actually having a very deceptive threat. He's actually threatening to capture the bishop here because it will open up the e file for the white's queen. And this was actually a threat that black missed. And after knight b d7 came the straightforward rook e5. And after pawn takes e5, I'll tell you what happens after knight takes e5. Well, let's get back. Alright. So after e takes f5, knight takes e6. Of course, now the best move would be knight e4, but in the game actually bishop e7 was played, which just basically loses to mate. But of course, after knight e4, you can take back, and knight d6 would do the job. It might be the best. By this time, who cares? Might as well give another piece. Bishop d5, queen d5, knight f6 check, king d8, and not taking the queen immediately, but queen e8, king c7, knight takes, king c6, queen e8, king d5, queen b7 check, and it's just over. It's not a position you can survive ever. But of course, you might also want to check what happens after, well, knight takes e5. Well, d5 is the obvious move. Now the rook is hanging, so is the knight. You can move the knight away, or you can take the rook. Well, of course, taking the rook, you will just take the knight back with the check. Of course, not queen. So after knight g4, you might want to pause the video, try to find out an exciting move here. But of course, by this time, you must know that in positions like this, we just don't go back. Of course, rook takes f7. And after, say, king takes f7 or queen takes f7, we of course go with queen takes g4. It's actually a exchange sack, but it's well worth it. But in the game, black tried bishop c5 check. After king g1, queen h1, now he decided to take. And after queen takes g4, we have the same position, just with the moves bishop c5, king h1 inserted. And it's a pretty good position. You cannot even castle, of course, because of bishop takes. And this is actually a very good position. I'm not really sure what the engine would say. Well, the engine is giving it almost +2, it's going up, +2.5 advantage for white. So of course, this is not the way you're gonna play. So bishop f5, that's the variation. Bishop g4 is also played very often, and bishop d3 is now played. We are following the game Coil Manella played in 1980. So after knight c6, this move d5 was played. I don't really know what this move d5 does, basically because knight takes d5 is a pretty straightforward response. But black decides to go with knight e5. I don't really know what he was thinking. Maybe he was trying to over attack this pawn, this knight which was pinned. But he of course missed this beautiful idea. Knight takes e5. And after bishop d1, bishop b5 check. This is an idea well worth remembering because I've seen it crop up in some other opening positions too. I think I had a position very similar to this in, I think so, the Nimzovich defense, which is e4, knight c6, but something close to that. And after c6, dc6, queen b6, well, of course, you're threatening to advance the pawn and give check and also take the queen. Just taking the pawn would mean nothing because you would take back, and that would be a horror. So you try to go bishop queen b6, but of course c takes b7, queen takes, and this is just game over. The king cannot come out because the knight is protecting the square. You have to go queen b8, and after queen takes b8 is mate. And that's a pretty sad end. So of course that's what happens with knight. However, queen takes f3 is also a move. I think it's called the rider gambit, and we're of course leaving the d pawn on pre. So after queen takes d4, bishop e3, that's our idea. Now I think so queen g4. After queen g4 we go queen f2. That's the main move. But there are a couple of options that black can pull out here. Queen b4 is a very fun variation in which there is a trap known as the Halosar trap. After queen b4 is we're attacking the pawn on b2, so we just castle queenside. And now black must be thinking, haha, white is pretty much a noob. He doesn't really know what he's doing, because why the hell has he allowed bishop g4, which is winning an exchange now. But this was the idea, knight b5. And after the obvious bishop f3, knight c7 is made, if you haven't already realized. Even something like e6, trying to give an escape square, is not going to end well, because after knight takes, king e7, queen takes b7, which is basically threatening the queen and the rook. Of course you can take the queen or you can do something else, but by this point nobody cares, because after queen takes, bishop c5 is just made again. Now let's go back and let's try after knight b5. The most sternest defense might actually be knight a6, but I don't know whether you can call it much of a defense here, because after queen b7 you're attacking. Queen e4 is a move which is somehow protecting the black rook through an x-ray. Queen takes a6, queen e3 check, which is of course has to be answered by king b1, and of course now knight c7 is on the cards again. You gotta go back with the queen, try to protect. And now again queen b7, this back and forth zigzag movement of the white queen. And of course you can take the bishop, you can take the rook here, and now queen takes a8 is the only move. If you think that knight takes c7, king d8, queen e8, this works, it doesn't, because now basically white is actually losing because of this threat on the d3 diagonal, threat on the c2 pawn. Bishop d3 is one sensible move that comes to mind, but it's actually nothing. After the simple bishop g6, you're threatening to go bishop g7 and trap the queen. So you can actually play knight f3 here, knight e2, but one of my friends actually played g3 with the idea that after bishop g7 he can go back with the queen. He could actually also, have played much better, but okay, whatever. After rook b8, the knight is threatening to leave the post, and the bishop and the rook will be attacking the b2 pawn. b3 was played, queen a3, which is having the same idea. Now queen d2, with the idea that after knight d5, queen c1, you're actually protecting the b2 square. But the obvious knight c3 is the game ender. After king a1, queen c1 is made. So of course all such things are pretty deadly, so you cannot actually take with the knight. The best move is queen takes a8, and after king d7 you have to understand that this square is weak, so the best move is knight c3, attacking the bishop and blocking the queen's eyes towards the c2 square. And after the bishop goes back, knight f3. White is down, I don't know how many pawns, maybe 2 pawns, 1 pawn. He's down 1 pawn, but it doesn't really matter. There's so many threats here. Every piece is developed. Now the bishop is going to come out with tempo and develop itself. So many threats. It's basically just game over. If you want to know, I'm not saying white has compensation here. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying white is completely winning. Let me turn on the engine and say what the engine says. Okay, saying +8 in favor of white, so we don't have to go anywhere close now. So this is the kind of havoc that Blackmar-Diemer Gambit can cause. Of course, textbooks will say that there are many better ways to defend against this. That's of course, but then things happen for a reason, because not every one of us are stockfish or super grandmasters who can defend properly. Okay, another variation was there actually, queen e5, with the idea of castle. Now you cannot go bishop g4 because of queen takes, but however I did manage to find a game with bishop g4, queen b7, queen e3 check, rook d2, queen e1, knight d1, queen f1. Black is so greedy. Knight f3. Now actually queen going back would have been a good move. Queen a6 with the idea queen a8, queen c8. Now this is a winning position for black because of the material advantage after e6. But black decided to grab another rook, and after knight e5, I think so his best bet was again to go queen f1 and go back with the same queen a6, queen c8 idea, but he did not do that. He tried to protect the bishop, and after queen a8 he was just sadly demolished, because there's nothing to do about the knight. You cannot even protect it because we just removed the guard, and the next move we're going to take the knight with mate to follow soon. You can't do anything. You cannot even go knight c6, of course, because of you can't even go back. It's just going to be a pretty mate, just like that. So anyways, that is the kind of havoc that can happen. But of course bishop g5, g4 shouldn't be played. c6 is a much better try, and after h3 we're taking away the g4 square for the bishop, and bishop e6. This is of course another game. We're following a game Diemer Ports played in 1948. These are the kind of victories because of which Diemer was so famous. So after bishop e6, bishop d3, knight b d7, knight g2, castle, bishop f4, straightforward development. Now of course queen c5 and queen a4 would be really good tries. Don't whistle at me. But somehow black decided to go queen h5. Now when you see this kind of constellation here with the king here and the rook and the knight blocking and these two pawns being here, it's already sacked time, and you can see that the two bishops are looking very menacingly towards the black king. So not a lot of points if you found the next move, but of course it's a still pretty move to find. So if you want, you can pause the video, try to see what kind of move will actually seal the deal completely for white. And the move of course is queen takes c6, which is a check, so it has to be answered. The only move is bishop b takes c6, and after bishop a6 it's mate. So I hope you enjoyed this quite lengthy video on the Blackmar-Diemer Gambit, but it was worthwhile, and it's a pretty interesting and exciting opening if you want to play. Okay, I also forgot to mention one other thing. d4, d5, e4 is not the only way you can get this gambit. You can also get it from e4, d5, which is a Scandinavian, and now playing d4. This might actually mess up many Scandinavian players because they're not hoping to expect to go into a Blackmar-Diemer Gambit when they're actually playing Scandinavian. Very few Scandinavian players are prepared for this, so of course you can get into it like that too. So see you next time. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and see you later. Bye bye.